This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in,
because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
and it's live.
Good evening, fellow Fox fans. How the devil are we? Are you happy? Enjoying yourselves? Guess what? We are still Premier League. Yes, and not only are we Premier League, but the Leicester City women are Premier League as well. 5 years ago, well, let me ask you this question for you here. What were you doing, my lord, 4 years and 363 days ago? I was getting very, very worried. Spurs were about to, they had travelled to Chelsea and were about to play them. And, of course, if they failed to beat Chelsea, it meant a lot to us. So I'll tell you what I was doing 4 years and 363 days ago. I was getting pissed. And then later on that night, I got more pissed. And later on that night, I actually went on Talk Sport Radio to talk to them about it. They invited me on. And it's the only time I've been on the radio drunk, I'll tell you. And the next day, I went into work, hungover, got the bus in, wore my kit, didn't care. It was one of the best nights of our lives. 5 years ago, we were crowned Premier League champions and we could sing this. 5 years ago. Can you believe it? I actually had hair then. Maybe not. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. You can catch us live on YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV, Facebook, Leicester Till I Die, the group, and Twitter. It still is at Leicester TID. Don't ask me to explain, but we are still Leicester TID. We're all over there. Let's have a look at a few comments here. Well done to the Leicester women. Indeed, Jason, 5 years. 5 years to the day. Matthew, good evening, Matthew. How the devil are you? Brad, good evening, Jesus. Enjoy the special, guys. Be sure to subscribe. Indeed, we've had a lot of subscriptions of lately. Miss Melina, good evening. How the devil are you? I know, typical Burnley last night. I tell you what, I lived there for 20 years. I know what they're like. Never rely on anybody from Burnley. That's what I say. Melina's just reminded me, though, something we're going to be launching very, very soon. And we're going to have the Leicester Till I Die TV singles. Indeed, we are, to celebrate the 5 year anniversary of us probably hugging and kissing people in the crowd we'd never even met or seen before. But we are launching Leicester Till I Die TV singles. Melina signed up for it. She is our first available young lady. So more information on that later. I think this is somebody she might actually quite like. We're going to say good evening to Josh. Good evening, Josh. How are you?
Good evening, Chris. How are you, pal?
What have I done? What have I done? I am saying nothing. I am saying nothing. But can you afford a plane ticket to Canada, mate? That's all I'm going to say.
I'm getting married in 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Well, 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? What stays in Leicester? What goes on in Leicester stays in Leicester, I should say. You know? David Gamble. Good evening, David. How the devil are you? Mad Jason says hi, Josh.
You're right, pal.
And Brad says good evening to Tyson Fury. Jesus saying hello to Tyson Fury. That's a mad match if ever I've seen one. So, what were you doing 4 years and 363 days ago?
Oh God, I remember the build up to it more than anything. And to be honest, the way Chelsea had gone that season, I didn't really expect them to do us any favours. So I was sort of more concentrating on the Everton game that were coming up, and then history wrote itself, didn't it? Really, you know,
Yes.
Cahill scored to make it 2-1, and then when Hazard scored that goal, I remember I ran out my front door and I was running up and down the street. I didn't know what to do with myself. And then the last 5 or 10 minutes of that game it just went to chaos.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly, there were players sent off, yellow cards flying around, and all sorts. But it was just unbelievable. So, you know, if I could go back and relive it, I would.
Pochettino, I often do. I watch the video. In fact, it wasn't so long ago. I did rewatch the Chelsea Spurs video, and it was literally you would have needed as Tyson Fury to have been there. you could have got a job as a bouncer that night. I'll tell you, mate. You know, like you get, Matt. It was a dirty game, but I mean, I know it wasn't. We didn't become champions purely on one game, but we are always going to thank the boot of Eden Hazard, aren't we?
Definitely, yeah. And you know what? I think, you know, obviously we're all sort of hoping that Chelsea would do us a favour that night, and you know, as we know they did. But I think even from remember, you know, when Hazard's celebration when he scored, I think it meant a lot to Chelsea as well. Really, just at the end of the day, stop Spurs from winning the title, and you know they were. If I remember rightly, they celebrated the equaliser like they'd scored a last minute winner. So it meant a bit to them as well.
and they were very much. They loved Claudio Ranieri. And, you know, I can remember posters being all around saying, you know, let's win it for Claudio. Let's do it for Claudio. Because I don't know that they particularly agreed he came second, in fairness, only to the Arsenal's Invincibles the season before, you know, before he was sacked. So, you know, the thing, we're going to go through as we talk tonight. We're going to look at each month and some of the big games. We're also going to look at some of the numbers that meant something that season. I'm sure, you know, if I said 11, everybody would immediately know what I'm talking about. If I said 2, probably people wouldn't. But to me, it is a number because, of course, I live down here in Poole. I work in Bournemouth. And 2 was the fact that we had become that season, apart from Tottenham fans, we had become everybody's favourite second team.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And if I remember right, I mean, you know, I've got a lot of my mates, you know, got a few Arsenal fans, a few Liverpool fans, Man United fans, and they were all, you know, when it got to the point where they realised that, you know, their team couldn't actually win it, they're all backing us to go on and do it. So I think it was definitely for the last, like I say, month and a half or so of the season, it was I was just surrounded by more Leicester fans than anything, which were nice.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember walking into the local building bank, my bank, and I'd got a coat on with a Leicester logo on, and the girl behind the counter said, "Oh, Leicester City, Jamie Vardy, Riyad Mahrez." I went, "Yeah, you know, we're doing well, having a good season. What team do you support?" "Oh, shit, I don't like football." But despite the fact that she knew all about Leicester, it was an unbelievable, you know, certainly I think, you know, us as podcasters, I was doing radio shows for Australia, for New Zealand, for Canada. TV was coming over. At the end of the season, I was absolutely bloody knackered.
I think it just literally took out. I mean, the whole story just. I mean, we all know how big football is worldwide, and to get obviously the recognition from nearly every country across the world. It was unbelievable, and it was fantastic. I think we're extremely lucky to be able to live through that time, and the way we're playing at the minute, who knows? We might get times like that again in the future. It's not out of our reach, so to speak. I don't think.
No, not at all. And when you see some of the other teams that are struggling, who knows? Bookline says here, I wish I had not lost that 5,000 to 1 betting slip. Yeah, right, Bookline. Right.
Don't we all?
It's probably behind the down the back of the settee with my winning lottery ticket. Yeah. And well, Miss Melina. Nice to see Josh on the panel. Yes. I'm sure it is Miss Melina. Josh, the quick question here, just to say, are you on Twitter at all?
I'm not. No, I was years ago, but now I come off it.
That's why a certain person couldn't find you and was wondering why a certain at Josh Lcfc hadn't replied to her.
No, I'm not on there. I'm not on there.
Your wife's not watching this issue, by the way, just so I want to get you into trouble. I was talking to some non-Leicester fans recently, and I say, living down here in Bournemouth, I can remember, I've been down here 11, 12 years. When I first came down, I can remember players and owners of the club, walking around outside Bournemouth Pavilion Theatre with buckets collecting money for the club. And they were 19 points deducted in the 4th tier because of going into administration. And that season we won it, they'd actually come up amazingly from that point to the Premier League. Yeah. And that, had we not gone on to win it, I think they would have had the story of the season. And, I say that because obviously that's the dream that, the ESL was probably trying to kill off. But, the season before, and this is the annoying thing, I'd had a season ticket the season before. I'd travelled 7-hour return journey, 7.5-hour return journey every home game to see us lose and stay at the bottom of the Premier League for another week. That, I think, was what made it such a big story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can remember I lived in Leicester City Centre for I can't remember how many years now, to be honest with you. And I moved into Leicester City Centre when it was probably about 2 or 3 months, the end of the Championship season when we went down. So I lived about 10 minutes from the stadium. So when we were in League One, I was going down every weekend, and you just buy a ticket on the door, to be honest with you, 10 minutes before kick-off. You never really needed to pre-plan anything. And then obviously, the years we've had since then, Championship winning year, we went up. Obviously, like you say, we had the Great Escape season. Then from then on, we're trying to get a ticket for a bloody nightmare, and it's been like that ever since. But I'd sooner it be like that, and obviously I'd be as successful as we are now than being back in League One and playing the likes of Scunthorpe and getting in 5 minutes before kick-off. So, yeah, it's been a strange old time, mate, it has, but we wouldn't have it any other way.
We would not indeed. But it's just my luck that I'd had a season ticket for a couple of years, and which was difficult for me because I lived down, like I say, on the south coast. But a good friend had got me a season ticket, and it was because we weren't giving bad performances that Great Escape year. We were doing some damn good performances, just not winning. Nobody was tonking us or anything. But it was just the journey for us, the 3.5 hours there, the parking, and the long journey home, and in the dark and what have you. And I just I said to my son, because he had a season ticket as well with me, and I said, I just can't do this anymore. And he said, well, I'm going to uni, Dad, so I won't be around. I'll be concentrating on that. I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to renew it next year. We go on and win it, don't we? That's me. That's me. Never let me give you advice on the horses, I'll tell you. But let's start at the beginning, Brad. We'd stayed up.
Yep.
We'd got that momentum going. It was the biggest great escape. Well, it was the great escape of all great escapes. I still believe that. And we'd gone off to Thailand, celebration because we were owned by Thai owners. I know we had a couple of naughty youth players there that couldn't keep the mobile phones amongst other things in the trousers, and we lost our manager.
It was a crazy pre-season, wasn't it? It really was.
I mean, as always, every man and his dog is linked with the job, the usual suspects and what have you. And I can remember, because I was blogging that time, that every day there was another favourite, depending which newspaper you bought.
It was just, like you say, it was a strange one. The names that we were linked with at the time, I can't really remember. And then, as we know, Don Claudio came along, and it was completely out of the blue. But as far as I was aware, I hadn't read anything about him being linked with us. I just remember my friend got wind of it. This is all apparently Claudio Ranieri is going to be your new manager. And I thought, no way. I think his job before us was the Greece national team, and that hadn't gone too well for him. And then before you know it, hour or so later, Sky Sports News, and he'd been appointed. And I just remember feeling at the time underwhelmed. I'll be honest. I didn't think we'd get going into the season. I didn't think we'd get relegated because obviously the players, like you're saying, the Great Escape season. I just sort of hoped that the momentum would carry on and roll into the next season. So I didn't think we'd get relegated. But when Ranieri was appointed, it sounds so stupid saying it now, looking back. I just thought we'd be maybe battling relegation, but anywhere from 16th to 13th, and I'd have been happy.
Now, see, this is where I can actually blow my own trumpet, because as bad as I was in making decisions like getting rid of my season ticket the season before we became champions, I was writing a blog for the Metro Online, the newspaper online, and there's plenty to write about, because, like you say, literally every other day we were being linked with another manager, and Claudio was then linked. And I actually put down, and I've still got the link. It is still actually there in internet history that I can prove that I said this. But I actually said I think it would be a good appointment, because although we hadn't won a title in any of the big leagues where he'd managed, he'd won cups. He had got a couple of promotions, but he'd got teams to like second and third in the league. And I can remember saying at the end of the day, if he can get Leicester to second, third, fourth in the league, we are going to be more than happy. Yes, the Greece job wasn't for him. And he made let's face it, a pig's arse of it. But how many managers, a good team manager, a good league manager, doesn't always make a good national manager.
International manager. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I can remember saying, I'm pleased he's coming, because I think he'll do. I didn't expect him to do as well as he did, but even Gary Lineker wasn't impressed, was he?
No, there's a famous tweet from him, and it's still knocking about. But I think again, I didn't write him off, because I back any manager that comes in for us, and I support them fully until the day they get sacked. But like I say, for me, and you can go back, and it's well documented. You go on YouTube now, and I think I seen something on Sky Sports the other day. Actually, they were just going back over the time and the month or so that he first came in, and Paul Merson saying, he'll get sacked, and Letitia saying he'll be the first one out the door, and then you look again, in hindsight, you look back now and you think, God, how wrong nearly 99% of the football population were, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to say that 1% was me. And I should also say, Melina, I do think you should go and have a cold shower, love. I really do. I can remember, I don't know if you, because looking back, it's amazing how things come back to you, but I can remember, when they do the photo shoot, and they're usually at the ground holding the scarf up or whatever, and he was sat in a wooden chair, God knows where, it looked like in the Gardens of Babylon or something, but he was sat on a chair holding the shirt, and I'm thinking, how old is this guy?
Yeah. I know what you mean. From what I can remember from the picture, it sound like near like a garden table, isn't he? From what I remember, I know exactly what you mean. I do remember.
I'm thinking, is that a bath chair, or is it, is he just too old to stand up for too long? But hey, he came in. He brought obviously a couple of things. Before we start looking at the matches, I mean, just some of the players that were in that team then. Mark Schwarzer was our third choice goalkeeper.
Madness.
That's
yeah.
I didn't realise, I'd forgotten Daniel Amati was in that squad.
He was, I think. Did we sign him in the January? I think he might have been a January signing. I'm sure he was. I'm pretty sure he was, but yeah, he was. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Definitely.
I went onto my website, LeicesterTillIDie.com, and I've got a thing on there, 2015-16, the champions, and I'm looking at the squad I'd put up. And I thought, what the hell, Daniel Amati, who I didn't even think he was here then. Johan Benaloon. And that's not easy for me to say. And I love this guy. I can never pronounce it. Marcin Wasilewski. Who remembers the tank, eh?
Quality, mate. He's, I know I follow him on Instagram, and he's very, I'll always comment on it saying, Leicester legend for what he did, and he were always, sometimes people say it was a bit of a walking red card, but you're always 110% committed, and you comment anything Leicester, and he'll always like it, and he's always following, Leicester City related things on Instagram. So I think he's, remember his last game for us, he cried his eyes out, didn't he? So we obviously mean a lot to him. Yeah, he was absolute man mountain, weren't he? Real warrior, and some of the challenges he put in were unbelievable.
I remember him giving away the free kick at the end when the Arsenal came back in the second Arsenal game. But you weren't going to get past him, whatever happened, It's not coming up here yet. Oh, is it coming up? Matt Jason, remember Nathan Dyer? Yes, indeed. We got him on loan. His contribution, I think, to the whole season, though, was getting knocked out playing Aston Villa.
I was there. I was at that game. We'll go on to that because that's one game that really sticks out in my mind, that one.
Yeah. Goklan Inler, he was Swiss captain, I think, at the time.
I think when we brought him in, I was more looking forward to signing him than N'Golo Kante. Again, in hindsight, what a crazy thing to say. But I think, like you say, he was Swiss captain. He came in, he got, a good background behind him, to be honest. And then I think looking back, just one of them players where he didn't really get a chance, did he? I guess. But I suppose with the central midfield we've got that season, he's not really going to, is he? Unfortunately,
no. And I'll leave Joe Dodo was one of the strikers. He didn't really do much that season, but of course, I always think the one that got away, Andre Kramaric.
Definitely. I mean, you look at what he's doing now, and he's scoring goals for fun in Germany for Hoffenheim. So he's he's just another one of them lads that just didn't really get a chance, unfortunately. But he's gone on to show what he's made of. Yeah,
I'm not sure, Matthew, if he did or not, but if he did, he gets an extra thumbs up from me, big Waz. Yeah, I believe he's now cage fighting, is he not?
It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me. He's, I think that there's a story come out recently that I can't remember. One of the lads went to dinner with him, and he just started eating his wine glass, and he had glass all around his mouth, and he's just eating the wine. Nuts, but again, it's characters like that you remember.
Yes, yeah. Right, let's get into the season. It all kicked off, obviously, that August when we had normal start times and what have you, and we had a game against Sunderland. Now, I wasn't that many games that season because, like I say, I'd got rid of my season ticket, but I was at that game, and it started out well for us. But of course, let's not forget, this kind of sums the season up for me here. That awkward season when you're trying to avoid relegation, but you accidentally win the Premier League. Claudio, that does sum us up. But look, August, let's have a look at August. Starts on the 8th of August, and we were at home to Sunderland. I was at that game, and my God, what a start it was, eh?
It was, and I remember sort of after that result thinking, chances are, Sunderland are sort of a team that we are going to be in and around, really. So I remember thinking, if we're picking up results like that against teams like that, then we might do all right this season. Again, I just thought, anywhere from sort of mid-table down to maybe 15th, 16th, anywhere in between that. I thought if we could get top half, then what a season it'd be. So yeah, that result at the time it stood out because I thought, we're going to be in and around the likes of, Sunderland and other teams like that. So it would, as you say, what a start, and it just showed that the momentum from the season before just rolled over into the next season. Yes,
that's the thing. That said, we didn't know how bad Sunderland were going to be this season, did we?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
We went on then to visit West Ham, and a bit of a memory here, because I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but one of those moments that you don't get very often, as Shinji on Okazaki header.
Yeah, he did. I remember that goal especially because I think Vardy put the ball in from his first shot, got saved, and then he's only about 5 foot something, weren't he? But I remember him sort of getting over the defender and knocking it into. I think we went 2-0 up in that game, if I remember correctly. Again, he was just another one of them players that, I think at the time, we had that sort of era character, weren't he, Shinji? And again, another player that always put in 110%. I think at the time, he sort of, some fans maybe, he didn't go underrated as such, but I think some people sort of underestimated what he brought to the team. And I think, again, at the time, he were integral for Vardy to goal scoring more than anything, because he did, as much as, Vardy runs himself into the ground, Okazaki was sort of dropping deep, making runs, and unbelievable player, really good.
He was, and that was only his second game. I can remember watching him against Sunderland, and I turned to my son and went, he's like a dog with a bone. He wouldn't let players settle. And he was what I would say was like Peter Beardsley was to Gary Lineker for England, which was basically not scoring many goals himself, but providing and setting up a lot. And that was the same with Shinji on Okazaki. He was all over them. I mean, everybody always goes on about Kante and, he used to be able to pass to himself sort of thing. But Shinji never made it past 60 minutes because he was always too knackered.
Always. You could sort of, to be fair, I think the bookies would probably stop taking bets on him being the first sub, because it seemed to be every game for him, bless him. But like you say, he come off the pitch every time absolutely shattered, because he was just always put a shift in for us. Some games he weren't great, but you could never ever, doubt that the 110% effort that he'd put into every time he pulled on a Leicester shirt. And at the end of the day, that's all we ask for, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jason. Kind words. This is making a happy man feel very old tonight. We then went ahead and got a draw with Spurs, which again, Spurs were quite big at that time. I know Spurs fans probably don't even remember that. But then Bournemouth, and I was at that game because it was away and it was down the road from me. But we finished the month and we were sat. Well, we finished the first game because of the goal difference on top. I can remember that match of the day. We were top of the league, but we finished the month in third place there. But then you look at it in all fairness and go, yeah, but Crystal Palace was second. Bit of reality check. Yeah. But
I think it was just, again, it was just, we just seemed to really just pick up from the season before. And, you look at some of the results there, and like you say, the 1-1 against Spurs, looking back now, and you're thinking at the time, Spurs, they were turning into a real force in the Premier League, really, Champions League football and such. And then to get, a 1-1 And then I think, if I remember rightly, we could have nicked it near the end on that day, from what I remember. So the start we made was brilliant.
Say good evening to Jack. How you doing, Jack Daniel? I know your sister Tia Maria. Hey. Anyway, let's move on to. I don't get any better. I warn you, I don't get any better. That's as good as it gets. Can I just say that will be as good as it gets tonight? Move on to September, and I'll let you go for this one then, because the first game we had, I think we had an international break. I'm not sure, but we had a visit of Villa to the old KP.
We did, and I remember it was on a Sunday, and I remember I was getting settled in. Probably about 2 hours before kickoff. Thought, I'll watch it on telly. And then my mate, he said, "Oh, I've got a spare ticket if you fancy coming." So rushed over to the ground, met up with them, had a pint beforehand, then went into the game. And it one of them where, went 2-0 down. Then the last 15 minutes, I remember Richie Delac got the first goal line technology goal as well. At one of them where it just crossed the line, and then after that it was just. But as soon as we scored that first, I thought there's no way. I weren't sure if we'd win the game. With only 15 minutes to go. I thought there's no way we're going to lose this. We're just absolutely bombarding them, and then Vardy gets a tap in, and then, as you say earlier, Nathan Dyer knocks himself out, heading in the winner. So
I don't think he knew he'd scored, did he?
No, that's it. And I remember it was sort of a strange feeling after he scored, because nobody really knew what was going on. We don't know if the goal was allowed. For a good 5 minutes afterwards, weren't sure if the ref had sort of gave a foul on the keeper, because the way they clattered into each other were quite bad from what I remember. And then, goal given, and that's a result that really stands out, because if I remember rightly, games before that, we came back from 2-0 down against Southampton. Stoke were 2-0 down. We came back, and then 2-0 down against Villa. So it was becoming a regular good habit at the time of us coming back, because we're 2-0 down in games. We're sort of thinking, well, we're never out of it until the final whistle. Yeah. So amazing game from what I remember. Really good.
That did define that season, didn't it? The fact that a bit like, to be honest with you, and I mentioned this, I can't tell what show I mentioned it on, but a bit reminds me a bit this season of that is the fact that even when we're going a goal down, you actually thought, we're not out of this. We can come back from this.
Most definitely. And, I think just even looking back on the Arsenal game, I know we lost 5-2, but from what I remember that day, we were playing really well, and it was a bit of a basketball game, to be honest with you. It was just end to end. One minute we're attacking, next minute they're attacking, and I think that game got us a lot of plaudits from other people as well. I suppose at the time, if you were looking at it nowadays, you'd probably say we were sort of like the Leeds United. We just obviously counter attack, and then just hopefully grab a goal. And unbelievable, really was at the time. Really good.
I was hoping you weren't going to mention the Arsenal game because Molina's in. But then again, I suppose, you've got to, give an Arsenal fan a bit of joy this season, haven't you? Because they've got absolutely nothing else. But it kind of brought us down to earth a little bit, didn't it?
It did a little bit. But again, Arsenal at the time, even now, Chris, I'll be honest with you, for me, Arsenal is still, I know, this season, it hasn't gone right for them, and the last few seasons they've not been as good, but they're still, on the day, they're one of the best teams to watch in the Premier League for the way they play.
I can mute you now. I've muted you, so anything nice you were saying about Arsenal isn't going out, and I can bring you back in. So just remember, I have the power to do that.
I just remember at the time, thinking, well, Arsenal, they're a cracking side and stout players that day, but I didn't really feel too downhearted from what I can remember at the time. It was just one of them where we had a go, and we just come unstuck that day, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did, and we finished the month down there in. We dropped a bit that month. We'd gone down to 8th, which I think was about as low as we went all season, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. From what I remember, yeah, that was the case. And then even 8th at the time, I'm thinking, we're doing really well here. If we could stay about 8th, 7th, then what a season it'd be.
Yeah, because you presume that we weren't going to stay up there, and an 8th finish was as good as we, well, we didn't quite get that good under O'Neill, but we had 9th and 10th and what have you. Bringing in October, we started. That was a good month for us. We had the win against Norwich away. We came back again. I think we were 2-0 down to Southampton. Vardy got a double. We beat Palace, and we won a bit of a 5-goal thriller against West Brom.
Again, there were just little results like that. I think, I think at the start of the season, like, from what I remember from the results that you're showing, they're quite high scoring games, really. Apart from obviously the Palace game and such. And I think, it was made a big thing at the time. We weren't really keeping clean sheets, and then Claudio's come out and said, "I'll buy everybody pizzas if we keep a clean sheet." And then, it was it was entertaining to watch. And obviously, as a bonus for that, we were winning games and obviously staying in a really good position in the league. So the West Brom game stands out because I remember, Vardy scoring and then giving their fans a bit of stick, and just things like that really just stand out in the mind. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think we still ended up the month 9th, but the thing that we had then was the fact that we actually managed to keep, like you say, a clean sheet, because I think that was the first game, that Palace game, where we actually kept a clean sheet, and they all went off to, was it Peter's Pizzeria, I think, and actually he'd promised them a pizza, did old Claudio, and he went and said, "Hey, you've got to make them yourself."
This shows what sort of character he was. Yeah, I remember.
Yes, totally. I got a little book somewhere, and it's full of Claudioisms, and some of the things he would say, and there's videos out there. But yeah, even as I say, coming into October, we're looking at 8, and you're thinking like, this is going well.
Yeah, again, I remember at the time, like, just going to I don't play football anymore. My legs ain't got it in, but at the time, saying to my mates, if we can sneak into Europa League, then what season it'd be. And it's, again, I was just repeating myself, because it's one of them things where I look back now and I know I know it happened, but you still can't believe it happened. You have to sort of pinch yourself and think, God, we actually did that. It was unbelievable.
It was. We're going to look at the next month and have a look at some figures straight after this.
Leicester Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
So magic, caught you out there, didn't we? Magic number time. I tell you what, I don't know, Josh, but you ought to put the heating on. It's really cold where you are.
I'll tell you what it is, just quickly for the viewers. I quit smoking yesterday, so I'm on a vape now. So you got to support me through it and keep backing me, trying.
we will support you through it. We will support you through it, and I'm sure Melina will as well. So if we're going to look at a number, let's look at the first number we're going to look at, 11. If I said to you 11 that season, what does that remind you of?
Jamie Vardy straight away. It's 11, it's heaven, it's Vardy. I remember old Martin Tyler saying that. You never forget that. Incredible. That's
up there for me with they think it's all over.
Yeah, it's because it's like you say, it's one of them. Again, you look at the numbers, and as soon as you hear Martin Tyler say that, and it takes you back. Just remember at the time thinking, obviously you're on a decent roll. And I remember I was away when he equalled the record against Newcastle. I was away at a gig in Coventry, and I remember we scored that, and then my mate was saying, "Oh yeah, United next game, if he's going to break the record, Ruud van Nistelrooy, then what a time to do it." And then, as history shows, he went on to do it, and I think after that he didn't score for a while, from what I remember.
No,
a few games. So
he took a bit of a break, didn't he? I'm going to ask you this, and it'd be interesting to see if we've still got any viewers with us, because I think Melina and Brad need to get a room as well. But I've got to ask you, Ruud van Nistelrooy did 11. He did 10 in 10, but it was over 2 seasons. If we got, as I say, 5 or 6 in one and 4 or 5 in the next season. And I know Jamie beat him, but had Jamie stopped at the 10, I still think that would have been a better achievement doing it in one season than doing it with the 2 seasons with the break.
I think you can look at it both ways, really. I mean, obviously, like I say, it's doing one season it's massive because, you know, as we know, the Premier League is the best league in the world. You know, it's got the best, for me, some of the, without doubt, the best players in the world playing in it. So I suppose, you know, to keep that sort of level of performance over a consistent amount of time is unbelievable. But then, you know, you look at sort of Ruud van Nistelrooy, I suppose, you know, if it, like you say, if he's done it for the last 5 or 6 games of the season, then come back and, you know, scored in the first 4 or 5 or whatever it is. I suppose to have that sort of, say, a longer layoff in between with pre-season, I guess it's sort of coming back and obviously having the mindset of thinking, yeah, we go again. So I suppose, you know, if being a Leicester fan, I'm going to be biased and say, you know, Vardy's were more impressive, but it's one of them records that I don't touch wood anyway. I don't, unless it's a Leicester player that does it, I don't think we're going to see it broken for quite a while, to be honest with you. Cause it's just, when you think about it, it's absolutely crazy. It really is.
I was very tempted to have a little bet on Inacho doing it, but that came to an end the other night. But moving on and looking into November, and we're getting up to the Christmas period here. We had 3 games in November, and we beat Watford 2-1. An easy win, and I'm saying that, and they're probably going to sort of spank us on Friday, but an easy win over Newcastle 3-0. And the 1-1 with the Man United game, which I think was the 11-11, wasn't it? And I still, to this point, as good a goal as it was from Vardy, remember in that game, the pass, was it from Christian Fuchs down that side to play him in? And I'm like, that was like, wow, you know?
It was, and I think, you know, if you look back now on the footage and stuff, and at the time, it was actually a no-look pass from him as well. When he's hit it, he's not even looked where Vardy's looking to the side, and, you know, to get that sort of position. I think, from what I remember, I think did it go past Chris Smalling, Vardy? I can't remember.
So there was somebody, but it went past the Man United defender who just seemed to watch it go past him.
Yeah, that's it. And the way to the pass, like you say, it was fantastic. And, you know, again, another player, Fuchs, from that season, how pivotal he was, and his set pieces, and, you know, his throw-ins and things like that. You know, he's quite known for his long throw and stuff like that. So again, it's just at the time, it's sort of, I think we sort of didn't take it for granted. But, you know, you look back now, and you're right, Chris. You look at the pass and you think, bloody hell, like, you know, the accuracy on that and the weight to the pass, and, you know, to allow Vardy time to get in behind is fantastic. Really was.
Now, you very much look to me like a Shaking Stevens fan. I'm sure you can. Yeah, I'm sure you can shake a leg to this whole house. But if I ask you the question, what do Shaking Stevens and Leicester City have in common?
Couldn't tell you, mate. I couldn't tell you.
Mate. No, well, in fairness, I wouldn't expect you to. I kind of dropped you in it. Well, they're both number 1 at Christmas. Everybody thinks I just throw this show together. You know what I mean? It's scripted. This is scripted, mate. Scripted. We were number 1 at Christmas, although we finished the month in second to Arsenal. And this was the season, I think, when Christian Fuchs took a throw-in against Arsenal. It hit the Arsenal player, and he went down like he'd been hit by Mike Tyson.
I think it was Sanchez, weren't it? Right, got him right in his face because he wouldn't move out of the way.
Yes, yeah. But 3-0 win over Swansea. 2-1 over Chelsea, which got Mourinho sacked the first time we got him sacked. 3-2 against Everton, and one of only our 3 losses all season, Boxing Day, Liverpool, the sods.
You know what? I think, you know, looking at the Liverpool result, and then when you say to people, you know, I can talk about the Premier League win till I'm blue in the face, and I'll never get bored of it. But you say to people, we only lost 3 times that season, and I think, you know, when you look at it like that, and you think, you know, 2 of them were against Arsenal, as we just seen, you know, the 5-2, and then when you think, like, you know, the only other 2 losses we had that season were against Liverpool 1-0. I remember it weren't a very good game. We deserved to lose, from what I remember. And then you think, you know, the other loss was a 2-1 against Arsenal. They scored in like the last second of the game. So
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that little old Leicester only lost 3 times on the way to the title. It's unbelievable, really. But yeah, like you say, I remember over that sort of Christmas period, we didn't slack off a little bit. We drew Man City, lost Liverpool, and then the next month we sort of lost. I think we drew with Bournemouth, and things weren't going as they were originally. But we were still up there, and obviously in a really good position.
I'm just going to do this because I can see Melina is still with us, and I just want to do this because it's something. Because she's only a young Melina. I mean, she looks like she's like 12, but I mean, she is only young. Hopefully, she's actually awake and not falling asleep like she did earlier on today. Cough, driving Melina. I just want to show Melina something because she might be young. You might not have seen this very much. But yes, that was Arsenal at the top of the league. I haven't doctored it. And for a little while, you did sit atop of the league, Bless her. She takes some stick, does Melina, I'll tell you, but played fair play to her. January came around and carried on where the old year had left off. Really, we had the draw with Bournemouth, like you say. We'd had the 1-0 win over Tottenham. We drew with Villa, and then the 3-0 over Stoke.
The Spurs game really stands out there because I think that was the hoof header, weren't it? Where I remember him standing and just getting his full neck behind it, whacked top corner. And I remember after that game thinking, it sort of made a bit of a statement, to be honest. I thought, again, I at the time didn't think we were ever going to win the Premier League, but I thought, it could really, sort of push us on to maybe get top 4, top 6 at a push, and it's results like that. Because I remember at the time, I think it would be a smash and grab that game because I think Spurs had plenty of chances. I think I can remember Harry Kane hitting the bar from, I think Kasper Schmeichel got onto it and it came off the bar and they were sort of peppering our goal. And then I remember who's scoring were at the last 25, 30 minutes or so, may have even been later. But again, it's results like that where you sort of come back, you look at it afterwards and you think, yeah, we could really do something this season.
Yeah. And it was, like you say, he didn't move, he didn't run onto he just stood there and it was his head that moved when he got the header Huth. And you're thinking, like, he could stand his own in Glasgow, couldn't he?
What a player as well, by the way.
Yeah. Again, I mean, he was a signing that we needed because, in the season before, I think we got him on loan in the January, hadn't we? And things started to turn around. But he was the experience that we needed in that defence.
He was definitely in. I think him and Wes sort of they complemented each other really well. To be honest, I think at the time, big lads as well, big strong lads. So I don't think many strikers didn't really want to come up against them and think really fancy his chances against these two. Maybe what they lacked in pace, they made up with leadership, I guess, because you look back at the time and you think, in that back line, we had 2 captains really, obviously Wes was main captain, but again, Hoof's another player that you could look at and think, he could lead us from the back, and again, just a really vital, massive player for us, not only in the Premier League winning season, but for the time he was at throughout his whole time with the club, really, really good player, and again, it's one of them players where another character and one that will live long in the memory, that's for sure.
Finishing January atop of the league. February, we were still finishing top of the league. We got there. We got our own back on Liverpool, and we'll come back to that game in a moment. We had the win over Man City. Arsenal did us. We'll forget that one. We won't talk about the Arsenal defeat. Okay. No, we will actually. And because this to me, and the Norwich, this to me is the defining month of the season. 2nd of February, Leicester 2, Liverpool 0. For me, not just Leicester's goal of the season, but the Premier League goal of the season. Vardy from, he was virtually back at the Royal Infirmary when he hit that shot. It went straight over whoever was in goal for Liverpool at that time. It was one of the best taken goals. It will live long in my memory.
It was incredible. I remember watching it at the time on a stream, we'll say. So I think we were a minute or so behind, and my mate is a Liverpool fan, and he looked at his phone, and I remember him he was swearing and going mad, and I was thinking, what's up with him? And then the next minute he says, he just come out of it, he couldn't hold it in. He says, apparently Vardy just scored one of the best goals you'll ever see. Yeah. And then obviously it's happened, it's come out of nowhere. I'm running around the living room going mental, jumping on him, winding him up. And then obviously before he scored the second, he's got up and walked out the house. So I sort of knew what was coming, unfortunately. But what a goal. And, again, it's one of them that you're going to see as highlights for God knows how many years to come, and long may it continue as well, because it was absolutely unbelievable to hit it that well and that far out, and the accuracy obviously was incredible.
Then we came up against Manchester City, who's double. I mean, like a bus, a Huth goal. You don't have one for months, and then they all come along within a few weeks of each other. And that was the game when a lot of people said they actually started to believe. Yeah,
I think, going into that, especially away at the Etihad, Man City got a bit of a formidable home record even to this day. The way they play football is incredible. You look back at their team at the time, Sterling's first season with them, Aguero, De Bruyne, and you could go on with the amount of top quality players they had, and then to go there and just completely outplay them, outclass them, and to come away 3-1. If I remember at the time, we missed quite a couple of other good chances. Well, it could have been 4 or 5-1, and it wouldn't have flattered us at all. We were superb that day, really were.
It was. And then there was the I've got to mention it, and I'll tell you why I'm going to mention it in a minute, but our third defeat of the season, it came against Arsenal again, and was Lesky's famous last-minute tackle.
Yeah.
I use the word tackle in its loosest sense.
Yeah, again, it was one of them where you look at the time, I'm thinking, God, it was such a stupid challenge to make, because they weren't really going anywhere either, and obviously the ball gets floated in, Welbeck heads in, and Arsenal think they're going to win the league from then on. I just remember sitting there feeling sick, to be honest, because we had Danny Simpson sent off that game harshly from what I remember, so it felt a bit unjustified, to be honest. And I remember us defending really well, and I thought, if we could get away with a point here from the way we defended heroically, really, I remember they were absolutely peppering our goal, and then to concede the last minute was a sickening, really. And then we came back from that and scored the last minute against Norwich with Ajoa and the earthquake goal. So it's sort of evened itself out, I guess, over the course of the month.
We'll come on to the earthquake in a minute, but this is what I remember for me. This was one of the season defining moments. Was that game, and that was this.
Yeah,
that's right. Of the Arsenal fans celebrating like they'd won the league. I mean, Mesut Ozil looks like he's having a fit at the back there, to be honest with you. But you wouldn't have thought. I mean, but that's, in a way, it's almost a bit, looking back on it, a bit like a compliment that they felt like that just because they'd beaten Leicester.
Exactly, and I remember. The season before, the Great Escape season, I think it was one of the games before where we started putting together that good run. I think it was Robert's first game for us. We were away against Arsenal. And I remember Theo Walcott coming off after that game and giving an interview saying, he says, I can't believe Leicester are the bottom of the league, the way they play. And so I think even then, certain teams have probably looked and thought, these ain't as bad as, as what the table was making out here. So again, from that picture you're showing, it's, I suppose Arsenal looked at that game and score a last-minute winner against what to them, we were title challengers, and so I guess it was a big scalp for them, really.
Melina says, "Look at you lads taking the piss out of Arsenal." I am sorry. We shouldn't, Melina. I am sorry. We shouldn't make fun of the less fortunate. So I apologise for that. and maybe I tell you, just one more time then, just because I absolutely love this picture, and that, to be honest with you, is our team talk for the rest of the season. Now, if I say to you, Joshua, 0.3, another number here for you to play with. You're looking at me. Would you know what that was?
0.3.
That was. You've already alluded to it. The size of the earthquake that was registered on the Richter scale when Joe had scored in that last. I don't know if it was the last minute, but my God, it was like. I mean, I think I created that just jumping up and down because I'm such a size. That was probably me on my own, to be honest with you, at home. I mean, the ground, I was told, was shaking.
It was a frustrating game from what I can remember of it. Again, you know, especially coming back after the Arsenal loss, you're sort of thinking, well, ideally you want to pick up a win against Norwich here, and then, you know, lo and behold, Big Leo pops up at the back stick and tucks away, and like you say, just I mean, I wasn't there on the day. Again, I watched it on an illegal stream.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, and I just remember going absolutely mental, and it one of them results where you look back at it and you think, God, you know, again, what a result it was and what it meant at the time, you know, because it showed how together the lads were and sticking till the last few minutes of the game and get a win against, you know, Norwich weren't a bad. I know they went down that season, but they weren't a bad side. It meant a lot. It really did.
Going and speeding through these possibly a little bit now, but March came along and we had the 2-2 with West Brom, which was a bit of a shame for West Brom because it was, I think, Jeff Astl's. Oh, no, that was the season before, I think, wasn't it?
It was,
we got 2-2 there. Watford, we won 1-0. Again, Newcastle United 1-0. Palace 1-0. And I can remember somebody complaining that it was a Palace. It was on the last day of the season, and if you get a chance, go onto YouTube and Google Robbie Savage versus Spurs fan, because he was so deluded that he was still the best team that season, despite the fact that they were third. And he said, we were only able to win games 1-0, but you still get 3 points whether it's 1-0 or 9-0, don't you?
Exactly, you do. And I think around that time as well, you know, you look at the results there and sort of clean sheets, they were massive for us at the time. But even, you know, you look at the score, it's 1-0, but we never really came under threat during them games. If I remember rightly, defensively we're absolutely solid and we kept most teams out. So, you know, like you say, you win 1-0, 9-0, you get 3 points at the end of the day.
Exactly. Good evening, Andy. Were your legs are trembling that day? I think they probably were. I was getting nervous because the funny thing about this was, and I know I've told some people before, but I was sat the whole season when I was at work. I was sat next to a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and you know, God plays these tricks on us sometimes. But the funny thing was that all season, we had a bit of a healthy respect for each other because we were good. You know, we got on. We just happened to support two teams that were up against each other that season, but neither of us believed that we would go on and win it. You know, I'm sat there going like, well, you know, Leicester are the team. We're always the nearly boys. We always shoot ourselves in the foot. And he said, yeah, but with his Spurs, we never win anything. Yeah, and it was amazing. We just sat there going, now, you know, it'll probably be Arsenal will probably come through between the pair of us and win it. But yeah, it just wasn't, you know, even now, you know, even then in March, it was like, could we, couldn't we, you know, but we finished March still on top of the league, and going into April, the Southampton, and of course the Sunderland game, we drew with West Ham, and the 4-0 Swansea. The Sunderland game, let's go to that one. The famous, well, you can see in that picture there, it was the game where Ranieri cried.
Again, another one that sticks out from my mind because I took my eldest daughter, she was obviously my only daughter at the time, I took her to swimming lessons, so I missed that game, and I thought I'm not going to look at my phone, full attention on, my little and doing a swimming lesson. Then I was getting notifications come through. We were 1-0 up, and then obviously Vardy got his second to make it 2-0. And I think after that, I sort of thought, yeah, it's on now. It's going to happen. And I believed, I shouldn't say it was in our hands at the time, but it was a bit like you, Chris. I was thinking, every week, the bubble's going to burst this week, and we might hit a bit of a sticky patch in the next few games, and then it just carried on. And I think, from the amount of games we had left, and to go away to win 2-0 at Sunderland again in another comfortable game for us, it was massive at the time. It really was.
But Molina, I think, is having to go. Champions League are playing tonight, apparently. Is it Arsenal tonight playing? If it is, good luck, Molina. I always like English teams to do well in European competitions, unless it's Tottenham. I've said that because Brookline says, is your hatred of Tottenham from the 2016 season, or does it run deeper than that? I actually don't hate Tottenham. We just have, that was just I think Tottenham kind of, if I say Ryan, Brad will know who I'm talking about, and he kind of sets himself up to be bitten, if that makes sense, because he comes on here with the comments and then isn't particularly keen if you give him one back. I up until that season, I didn't mind Tottenham. I didn't hate them. I didn't mind them. Nothing against them. There was no great rivalry there. It's just history made it that they were our rivals that season, and of course,
exactly.
But I don't have I hate. If you're going to say which team do I hate more than any, it actually is Coventry, because they are always were to me our closest rivals, and therefore. That was the team. He's probably died a bit now because we've not played them for like 20 years, but certainly. So apparently Molina's not going. I thought she was going to be leaving us, but apparently she's not. We then had the West Ham game, and we had a bit of a Mr. Vardy being a little bit naughty, according to the referee.
I remember going absolutely mental at the time, thinking it's definite penalty. But looking back on replays, and even now, he's sort of thinking he's trying to buy the penalty, really trying to be a bit cute. And then, excuse me, I remember they went 2-1 up. I remember Cresswell scoring a cracking goal for them top corner, and then Schlupp won his penalty in the last minute or so. And just before the penalty, just before Ajawa took the penalty, I was around my friend's house watching it. I was that nervous and anxious. I couldn't sit still, so I had like 4 mates holding me in the corner because I couldn't. Honestly, I felt that sick. And then when he scored, I just remember ragging him out of the way, running around the house, going mental. Looking back now, and at the time, it just felt like a massive, massive point for us because again, the Leicester of old might have sort of ran away from that, took the 2-1 loss and gone home with it, the tail between the legs. But we stuck in there and obviously got what turned out to be a massive point at the end. It really was. It
was like a win, really, wasn't it? Getting that point,
yeah.
And I'm going to be very controversial here because 2 points from that game, more than 2 points, but let's go through it. First of all, their penalty. If you look at our defence through the whole season, we were literally, we were virtually, our defenders were virtually hugging their strikers. And, they had been warned, and we kind of, you couldn't do it now. I think, it was one of those things that was looked at because of that. And, they got the penalty because, they'd been warned about it. And Vardy, I honestly think he does. I'm not saying that he doesn't get penalties and that, they aren't penalties, but I don't think there's anybody better than him that actually plays for the penalties.
Definitely. And again, he's, like I say, from replays, and he still does it now, to be honest with you. He does every now and again, he sort of puts his body in front of the defender and sort of invites the foul, so to speak. And you can call it, you can call it cheating, you can call it what you want, but it's part and parcel of football today, really. If you think you can sort of buy a foul and buy a penalty, then fair enough. We've seen it go for us, we've seen it go against us plenty of times over the season. So it's just part and parcel of football. And like you say, we've got one of the best strikers around that does it.
Yeah. We got the penalty at the end, but just before that, I'm struggling to think. Somebody might remind me, but I'm struggling to think. We should have had another penalty, whether it was Huth that was dragged down, or I'm not sure who. Was it Huth? Right.
It was, that's right. Yeah.
And John Moss, I think, and let's be honest with you, I think he was the ref that day. He's no better now, to be honest with you. But
No.
he didn't give that penalty. I don't think I think the Huth one was more of a penalty than the Schlupp one was, and I think we got the Schlupp one because he hadn't given the Huth one.
It was, and like you say, I remember the foul on Huth was worse than Wes Morgan's on Winston Reid. From what I can remember, I remember the defender being all over Huth, and I think like you say, John Moss has missed that one, and he's thought, pardon the language, I've dropped a bit of a bollock here, really. I should have gave that.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, the Schlupp one, it was soft. You've seen him given, but for me at the time, I thought, we're a bit lucky to get that. But I think he just wanted to obviously even things up because he missed the foul on Hoof. So it worked out well for us in the end, I guess.
Yeah. And then, of course, I say Vardy was sent off in that game. And, of course, that was when it all came out. And this was another game I went to. I didn't go to many that season, but Leicester only a one-player team. We've only got Vardy. Without Vardy, we would crumble. Hang on.
That's
it was 4-0 to Leicester over Swansea, courtesy of Mahrez, Ujoa, Huth, and Albrighton.
Easy day's work. That again, it was one of them where I were a bit nervous going into it, but Ujoa that day, we were on form. It's like you say, he bagged 2, and then I think what sort of settled the nerves that day was Mahrez scoring so early. We put us 1-0 up, and then I think we got the second after maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then you're sort of thinking, again, it's going to go for us today, and then as history shows, it did, and we battered them that game, absolutely battered them, and at the end, it's one of them where you're thinking, what were we so nervous about?
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing there is when you look at the table, Spurs were still second, Man City were third, and Arsenal were, although on goal difference, were fourth. That was the change in the next month as we came down to the last 3 games. We could have won it away to Man United. I was sat in the pub with my son, and I was actually surrounded by a lot of Man United. And Josh has gone. Not sure where Josh has gone, but Josh has gone. So I'll just talk to myself for a bit here then. That way, at least nobody's going to argue with me. But we played Man United start 1st of May. I was down the pub with my son, and I seem to remember being in Poole, as I live in Poole. The match was full of the pub was full of Man United fans, as it is, and I can remember because they at this point they were sort of too far. They were never going to catch us. And actually, we got the 1-1 draw thanks to Wes Morgan, and we came back and got the draw. And as we left the pub, and it was obvious we were Leicester fans because we were dressed in all the kit. They so just looking, Josh is coming back now. They actually were shaking our hands and saying, "Good luck, go and win it against Everton now." And that was coming from Man United fans. But Josh, you're back.
Apologies, mate. My internet went.
Yeah. You went for a fag. Don't deny it. We know you're trying to give up, but you went for a fag, man. You went for a fag. I was just saying that Man United game, we should have won. We could have won it there, but I was watching in a pub with my son. We were surrounded by Man United fans, and it was a great feeling. At the end, they were saying to us, "We'll go on and win it against Everton now."
Yeah, that's it. And again, from what I remember from the game, it was quite a cagey affair, to be honest. I know they went. I think Martial scored for them, and Wes Morgan equalised for us. And I remember Okazaki going close in that game as well, sort of sliding in at the back post and just missing it. And then it. It's a result where you look at it. Obviously with the game before, the Chelsea Spurs game, as we spoke about earlier, and it was. I think. As you say, Man United fans sort of wishing as well and hoping we go on to win. And it was strange, sort of, especially towards the second half of the season where most fans we were coming up against. And I remember going back to the West Brom game quickly. Tony Pulis coming out after that and saying, I'm going to support Leicester from here on until the end of the season. I want them to do it. And it was really strange, sort of having everybody sort of having every other team apart from, like you say, Spurs, sort of having you back and wishing you well to go on to do it. It was strange. It was nice, though. It was nice.
It was. And we will be back. Now you're back. We will be back straight after this.
Leicester Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
No, I didn't have time, mate. I was watching you. I can't make that any longer than it is. I'm sorry. I don't think I've got a longer jingle than that. So it's just after that game, of course, with the game we talked about earlier, Chelsea 2, Tottenham 2. We then had, everybody was after tickets for this game. Leicester City 3, Everton 1. The time when the cup was presented to us, the trophy was presented to us. I stood there. I remember I was actually about to pay a few £100 for a ticket off somebody that an Everton fan that was going to let me have his ticket, and it was all going on. Everybody was trying to do it, and somebody came in. I've got to be honest with you, a very, very good friend of mine, and he linked with the club, so I can't give his name out. Got me a ticket at face value price, and I was 55 then. I was surrounded by people I didn't know. Bocelli came out on the pitch, sang Nessun Dorma, and I was dripping with tears.
I was the same. I was. I watched that round. Me and my friends at the time, I was me and another lad were a Leicester fan, and we made a bit of a day of it. We had a barbecue around his house, and obviously got it up on the telly and stuff. And I'm sat there thinking, God, this is really happening, isn't it? It's unbelievable. It really was, and I think that was one of the sort of things you can look back now, and what a massive thing it was. Like you say, for Bocelli to be singing before the game, and I remember, the Evans Open, they absolutely chucked it down. And so many minutes into kick-off as well, and then Sun came out for the trophy parade, and it was unbelievable. It really was. It was fantastic. What a day!
And I tell you what, you could. I don't know who this guy was, and I hadn't seen him before, hadn't seen him after. But I don't think I've ever hugged anybody as tight as when that Wes Morgan lifted that trophy. And the whole thing with the fireworks. You've got to say, Leicester do these things rather well, don't we?
Definitely. It definitely. And you just got to sort of, again, sort of look back at it now, and then, you look at how well we're doing this season, and you think, things like that ain't out of reach for us anymore. We're one of the richest clubs for me in world football. We've obviously the owners we've got. We're extremely lucky to have the owners that we do have. But how wealthy they are and how well looked after we are as a club. And I suppose against the likes, the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, the Arsenal, the Chelsea of the world, we're not really that attractive. But I think we are getting there. And so you say you look back on that day and you think, I don't think it's going to be too long, really, where we're in a position to fight for the title again, and hopefully we'll be able to experience some more days like that. Fingers crossed, and it could be this year with the FA Cup, obviously. Yeah.
The last game of the season, we got the Guard of Honour out from Chelsea. Chelsea very kindly presented Ranieri with a nice plate or a silver plate. I can remember the camera picking out Abramovich in the crowd, and even he was applauding Ranieri. It was just it was the season when everything changed for Leicester as a club. It was almost like we got an invitation to the top table. And I know, the stories about, the clubs got together, decided that was never going to happen again. And one of the things that led to the ESL talks and all this sort of thing. But, as a club, and I know a lot of fans are bitter about, the fact that we've got fans. We had a lot of Algerians because of Mahrez, and, we had fans that were suddenly coming from Thailand and America, but they'd never heard from Leicester. And, somebody's come from, say, Spain, and they've only been supporting us since 2016. But that's what happens. How do you think Man United became a global club? And unfortunately, that was through bad news. But global things happen, and it brings fans in and brings money into the club, which is good. And we are a different club now, aren't we?
We are definitely, and it's nice to see, sort of, especially like the younger generation now. You're seeing a lot more Leicester shirts around, and kids running around with Vardy on the back of the shirt, and it's good to see because as a kid growing up myself, and me being a Leicester fan, we're always sort of not took the mickey out of at school because it's our local team, but a lot of lads running around in Man United shirts and Liverpool and sort of Chelsea at the time, I guess. And then there's me in my Leicester shirt with "Is it 6" on the back, sort of, well, we're doing all, we'll leave Josh alone because, Leicester mid-table, they're all right, little Leicester. And then, like you say, it's just completely, the season that we had just completely, it blew up, it blew everything up for us, and it was absolutely fantastic. And like you say, if that's the way to get the younger generation of fans and worldwide fans, then what better way to do it? Success brings people in, so long may it continue for us.
Last number really we're going to look at is 3, which we've mentioned before, which was the number of losses we had that season. It was our best ever record in the top flight, losing just 3 games in the season, but only 4 teams have actually done better than us. Arsenal, obviously, who lost none in the Invincible years. They keep popping up in our story, Arsenal, don't they? Good God. Liverpool won it in 18-19, losing only once. And again, let's face it, they were an amazing team. Chelsea won in 2004-05, and Manchester City 2 in 17-18. Again, we're up there with the big boys, but
definitely, and you're right. Like you say, only three losses, and I think a lot of people forget as well. We won it by 10 points in the end. We haven't fluked it. We walked it. It sounds crazy, but we walked it really, didn't we? 10 clear points, and it was just unbelievable. And again, what a season it was, and even thinking about it now, I get goosebumps, and I don't think that feeling will never go away. And I'm glad for that, to be honest, because it's for us to live through something that momentous, and it not just for the club, for the whole of Leicester. At the end of the day, compared to other cities across England, we're quite a small city. So for something like that for us to happen and really put us on the map, it was unbelievable, and it was something I'll never forget until the day that I pass.
I don't think any of us will. And I can remember saying to my son, "Are you going to come down, to the presentation with me?" And I can remember him saying that, he can't because he'd got the next Monday or something, to do with his university. It was a big thing, and he had to get ready for that. And I said, "But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." And he said, "Oh, Dad, I'm only just 20. I could probably see it again." And I remember thinking at the time, like, no, you can't. But yes, they did. We haven't done it yet, but, things have turned around so much that who knows now.
Exactly. And I don't think we're a million. It sounds daft, and a lot of maybe neutral fans would probably think I'm crazy to say this, but I don't think we're that many sort of, say, further signings, so to speak. I don't think we're that far off again from challenging. I really don't. On his day, we can beat anybody. We've shown that this season, and hopefully we could do it again. You know, in the final against Chelsea, and you know, to win the FA Cup this season. What an amazing thing again to live through. And you know, you just got to sort of think, well, the players we've got, if we keep hold of them, you know, new training ground, and we're a club that's on the up again. I'll go back to, you know, what amazing owners we've got, the players we've got, and we really ain't that far off from having that sort of success again. Definitely.
I've just put this up in the, if you're on YouTube and following us on YouTube, I've just put this up there in the chat, which is the link to the BBC Radio 5 Live 606 Spurs fan being absolutely savaged by Robbie Savage. Andy says here, quite rightly, and I agree with this totally, Nigel Pearson should take a lot of credit for the title-winning team. I mean, totally. I mean, you know, Claudio almost admitted he didn't, you know, it wasn't a case of him having to make major changes. It was a tweak here and a tweak there. Whether we would have won it under Nigel, we will never know. But he certainly put the foundations there, I truly believe, and I think he should probably get more credit than he does, even though obviously it was Claudio that won it for us.
Definitely, and just quickly, I think that's absolutely spot on. Again, we could talk about momentum. I weren't really a fan of the term momentum. I thought, you know, it was sort of a case of, before obviously the title winning season, I thought it was a case of, you know, you turn up on the day and it's whoever wants it more. But it just goes to show what momentum can do, you know, from escaping relegation with 8 or 9 or 10 games of the previous season to go in and winning the Premier League. If that's not evidence what momentum could do for you, then I don't know what is really. Again, excuse me, Pearson's he's right. You know, he's sort of like laid the foundation and paved the way for us, I guess. And Claudio, like you say, just a few tweaks here and there, and absolutely skyrocketed for us.
Brookline there kind of sums the season up in 7 points very, very well there. I think you've got your favourite memories of a lot of ours as well, Brookline. Andy Medhurst saying parading the trophy through Leicester was something else. To be totally honest with you, I just couldn't get it. I wanted to come up that weekend and see it. Oh, no, I think it might have been a midweek. I can't remember, but for whatever reason, I couldn't make it. Watched it on the TV. I tell you something, the old staging in Victoria Park wasn't bad either, was it? 1 or 2 people turned up for that.
I was there. I went straight to Victoria Park that day. We were on the Monday after the Chelsea game. I booked the day off work, went down there, and obviously had a few beers and enjoyed myself. It was, again, you know, again, it's one of them days where you sort of, as a football fan, as a Leicester fan, you live for days like that, and you know, to think that we could you know, potentially have them times again, you know, and for my kids as well, you know, so I'm trying to sort of obviously coax them into the Leicester side of things now. I think I'm got more chance on my youngest than my oldest, to be honest with you, but for them to be able to see things like that is going to be amazing as well, you know, so hopefully they can sort of you know, experience the feelings that I've had supporting Leicester. Highs and the lows, to be honest, because obviously without the lows you can't enjoy the highs, can you?
No. Matthew, the Tinker Man. I think they really nicknamed him the Thinker Man, didn't they, or something that season? But but can you believe? And I'm obviously conscious of the time, and thank you for staying with us, and thank you to everybody who stayed with us watching. But can you believe it was 5 years ago?
It's gone so fast. It has gone so fast, really. And I think, you know, in that amount of time to where we are now today, so much has happened to us. You know, obviously the tragic events of, you know, Vichai passing away and things like that. You know, we had Champions League campaign shoved in between there, and Brendan coming in is for the good and the bad, really. You know, being a Leicester fan, it's never boring, is it? It's never ever boring. There's always something. Again, you know, for good and bad, there's always something to talk about. So
it's a roller coaster, isn't it? For Leicester, we always say
really
that.
It really is. You know, I suppose sort of you can look back now and on sort of Martin O'Neill era and think, you know, mid-table mediocrity, and we were brilliant at the time, and we were a really good team. And then from where we've gone from then to where we are now. If you were to write a film of it, and you wouldn't believe the script, you wouldn't think it'd be real life, but it is, and what a club we support.
Claudio Ranieri is H. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. And I tell you what, I'm not even going to ask for an excuse, if you mind, if I'm going to play this again, because I'm going to play this again anyway. I will never get bored of singing that. I can remember I think it was at Southampton. It was the 9-0, but it was an anniversary, and on the 60th minute, I think we just sang it for like 10 minutes non-stop. The one song. Josh, thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Absolute pleasure, pal. Just want to say as well, well done on the 500 subs, pal. Very, very well deserved. I know you put a lot of hard work into what you do, so it's fully deserved, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much, young man. The check's in the post. I said that's so out of date these days, shouldn't I? I should be saying the money transfer is with PayPal. Thanks very much, mate. Means a lot. Take care of yourself, and I will see you on pre-match Friday night.
Another Friday game, mate. Looking forward to it, pal. And
then getting very much closer to the FA Cup final. Well, don't start me on that. I'm still nervous.
I know, I don't want to talk about it till like the week before or so.
No, we will do. Hey, thanks very much, mate. I'll see you on Friday.
My pleasure. Have a good one, mate. I'll speak to you in a bit.
And you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra, pal.
Cheers. There we go. Sorry, that wasn't meant to happen. I've got itchy fingers. Yeah, let's not go there. 5 years ago. Can you believe it was 5 years ago? As I say, I was a young boy then. I don't know. Brookline, 15 years from now, you'll be singing It Was 20 Years Ago. Ranieri taught the band to play. Yeah, I'm not going to sing. Don't worry. I'm not going to sing. But yes, indeed. We will never forget it. It's part of the history. Thanks very much for sticking with us, guys. If you want to tune into the podcasts, this will be up live, but all the podcasts are on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and Podcast Addict, to name just a few. We're going to be back tomorrow night, and I'm going to be outnumbered. I've got a couple of Newcastle fans coming on. I might mention Steve Bruce. See if I get away with it, shall we? If nothing else from this this show, just let it remind you of one thing. And if someone tells you that something is impossible, tell them about Leicester. Guys, thanks very much. It's been great. Stay safe. See you tomorrow night at 7 with the Opposition View Show. Good night now.
Hello, Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
Some people are on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now.